Hello everyone. We're going to start off with the first video of our clan modding tutorials. We are going to check out how to first launch and set things up. You would have gotten a code and you would have redeemed it now and got the Mechwarrior 5 clans modding editor. I would recommend launching that, and I'll skip ahead to when it loads. Okay, we are all loaded up, and it may have taken you a few minutes to get all the assets loaded, but here we are at the start of the editor, and now what you want to do is come up and hit Mod Manager. There's already some mods here. There's the example mod mission that you can go and check out for if you want to just see what I'll be going through over my tutorial videos. But to create a new one, all you need to do is hit New Mod, select Basic Mod, create an author, Mark, for example, and give it a mod name. So we're just going to give it example mod test, as I will not be keeping this one. And create mod. Now you must restart your editor now in order for things to work. You do not need to package it yet. You only need to package the mod once you are done making everything and you want to ship it. The second video where we are going to create our project. Now, if you haven't created a mod, packaged it, and restarted the editor, I recommend doing that now in the previous video. Right now we are going to start with creating our folder structure. So first, create a folder called level instances, and next create a folder called missions. Forgot an S there. Okay, next we are going to create a level called level mod mission, and make sure you save that. Next we are going to open the mod, and you can see that it is just a blank asset. Now the thing we need to open is, I recommend opening the levels ladder, and we can put it up right up top. You can put it really anywhere you want, but for here, this works for now. It's totally up to you. This is where we are going to start creating some levels within our level here. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up to this levels drop down, click it, and we're first going to do add existing. If you go all the way up to the content, we are going to type in L light, okay, L_light, and we are going to choose from one of these. These are some helpful pre-done levels that we can add in. I'm going to choose the daytime no fog option and add that to our current world. Great, as you can now see, we have a nice, beautiful, empty world. Next, because we are already in our levels window, we are going to create a few more things for the future of our level. Now you're going to go up and create new and select empty level. Now you need to go down to the content, and our mod exists in plugins, and then you'll see under plugins your mod. For mine, it's example map content, and you want to go down to and select level instances, the folder we just created. And from there, we are going to name this gameplay. Okay. Now, as you can see, there is now a gameplay level instance in here. Okay. Next, we're going to add one more. The same method. and we're going to call it the environment. Save. Great. Next, we are going to create a landscape. Now, one important detail is that you need to be in the persistent level for the landscape. I also recommend saving at this time so that nothing happens and you don't lose anything out. As you can see, the persistent level has now been saved and we are currently active. You can see the active by what is blue. Now I need you to go up to the left-hand corner and select the drop down and select landscape. And here we go. Here's the landscape mode. There's two different ways to do this. The first way is to create a flat blank canvas that you can sculpt through the terrain tools. I will show you how to do that, but the way we're going to do this is going to be importing a height map. The height map that I'll use in this tutorial will be provided for you if you want to follow along exactly. But first, let's go over just creating a new one. First, okay, it's going to be landscape test MTL. So this is what you can use as a starter. And we'll do a separate video later on terrain sculpting and using the materials that we have given you to modify. Now, if you are not importing a file, then you're going to want to select a general number of components. So I just do 64, and that should give you a good starting base. Now, do not hit fill world. That is something separate. Hit create, and that will fill this in with just a flat landscape. But like I said, we are going to go with a height map. So let's switch to import from file, and here you can see it's a bit different. We're going to go in and select the PNG, and as you can see now it has populated and filled everything in accordingly. At this point, since we've already selected and it's come over the landscape material, we can go ahead and hit import. Great. As you can see, we are now looking great. This is fantastic. We are now going to get out of there and go back to selection mode. One important step that we need to do is go in and change every one of our sublevels into always loaded. So you're going to select each one of these, go down to change streaming method and select always loaded. And especially important, you need to go in and do this for the daytime lighting. If not, the level will appear dark and you won't be able to see anything. Let's go back and add the nav. Okay, what we want to do is go into the details panel, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, and zero out the location to get it right in the center. Now, I would recommend going back to the outliner and going and finding our nav mesh bounds volume. We will go over some folder structure that I can recommend you later, but at this moment we're just going to get everything started. So now you have that there. We can go into the transform section and start making it large enough to cover our box. This is a nav mesh that will allow AI to move around. So just from experimentation, we can go around 3000. It's a bit large. Oh. And that'll get you more than covered. Let's do 2500. And do 2000 each side. And then I'll cover everything. At this point, you can hit P, but as you can see, nothing happens. The reason why is we need to build the navigation. So what you want to go do is you're going to go up, and you want to go over and into the build menu and hit build paths, which is under the navigation part. Blue layer on the map. You can toggle it on and off with P, and for now we're going to leave it off. Next, in order for us to play, we have to create a few things. So first things first is going into our missions folder, okay, in our content browser, and we're going to go up and create a blueprint class. Now, all classes will be usually there. It will be there, and you need to drop it down. Now what you're going to type in is mission, and you're going to go down until you see Kel based mission script, and you're going to go down a couple more and see BP Kel mission script base. Select that, okay, and we are going to call it BP Kel mission script, and we're going to save that. Drag that into your level. Now this is vital because this is where all the logic is going to go for your level. But we have to connect it to a few more things for us to play. So next thing is we're going to go up here and add a cinematic start encounter and drag that into the level as well. Next, we're going to go with a BP underscore cinematic start encounter sequence and add that in. Lastly, we are going to create multiple MW spawn points. So type in MW spawn and you'll see the MW spawn point here. Now this does matter for where it's located. So we're going to just put it in the middle of the map here, and we're going to duplicate it 4 more times. We have a total of 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now we need to place these into our cinematic start encounter and connect them. So once you go into the cinematic start encounter, you'll see mech spawners under default. You want to add 5 to there, and we're going to just fill out the dropdowns. Pretty simple. Now, as you can see, the next thing below is cinematic sequence. We are going to select the sequence we just created. After that, we are going to go up to our mission script again. Now that we have our mission script open, all you want to do here is connect that to our cinematic start encounter. We are almost done. The last thing we have to do is create a level sequence. I've already created a level sequence folder, but right now you should create that level sequence folder, then we'll walk through the rest. Open that up, and when you want to go and you want to type in level, and you'll see under cinematics level sequence. So we're going to call it LS for level sequence underscore mod mission intro. Okay, and save that. If we double click that open and close the content browser, you're going to see that we are now in the sequencer. All we're going to do is add a fade track. And we are going to add that to 0, and at 1 second, we are going to change that to 1. Let's change that to 1. Change that to 0 and save it. Close the sequencer. And now we're going to go back up to the PP cinematic start sequence encounter. And we're going to go down until we see at the very bottom gameplay sequence, and under that is sequence asset. So we're going to go in here and select our mod mission intro. Great. So now we have that. I would recommend saving. Now what we need to do is one final step before we can play. We are going to go up and hit edit on our BPKEL mission script. We're going to go into our event graph, and we are going to get event start mission. Okay, now that we have event start mission, what you want to do is you're going to click on it, right click, and go to add call to parent function. Okay, this is going to make sure everything runs properly. Next, what I want you to do is right click and type in start encounter. So you're going to get start encounter. From here, you're going to resolve the soft reference, okay? And then you're going to cast to cinematic start encounter, okay? Organize this a little bit. From here, our goal is to know when this finishes so that we can start any type of content after this, like playing the level or having enemies spawn, etc. So we're going to pull off of as cinematic start encounter, and we're going to bind event on finished. There we go. Bind event on finished. Okay. From here, you pull off of the event and type in create event. Okay. Now this will create an event that we so deem. We want to select create a matching event here. This will create a custom event for us that is connected there. So let's call it mod mission start. Okay, so here is the start of our level. Perfect. Now you do need to go up and compile everything. Okay, that means we are done here. We're going to go back into our level. Okay, we do have to go into our window up top, and we have to go into our world settings. Now what we need to do is we have to override our current non-game override into our test mode. So what you can do, it's going to be called BP_KEL mission script test mode. Okay, now that is done. Right beside the play button, if you go far to the right a little bit, you'll select these three buttons. Now you want to go down and select our BPKEL mission script. Now that we have the final things set up, let's hit play. It may take a little bit on your first time, but as you can see, we have yourself in the level. Press P to power up, and we can change that so that you do not need to start up your mech. But as you can see, you walk around and fire everything. You have light, and you have your allies as well. Success. Now if you do want to change that startup so you don't have to power up, what you want to do is go to the cinematic start encounter and just turn that to on, initial power state, and save that out. And we can press play again, and you are on and playing. And you have your ally mix moving now as well. We're going to stop there. We went over how to set up a level in the last video. Today we are going to go over objectives so that you can get some gameplay in your level. First, we're going to start with a simple go-to objective, which can be used in many different ways within the level. So first thing we're going to do is go up to the top left here and type in trigger. Okay, we want a trigger box and pull that into the level. Okay, with a trigger box, right here on the details panel, box extent, we want to extend that by quite a bit. So let's go by 200, 200, and 100, and see if that's enough. It is not. You can also, this is a good example to showcase that you can just set a scale as well. So we can start this off with 5, and then you can go back to here and increase the size, and it doesn't have to be such a high number. So as you can see now, it's getting to be a decent size. But if we really wanted to extend it out, let's say between these two walls, then we can just further increase it. Great, so that should be good enough. Now with trigger boxes, as you can see, there is a center point. That is where the objective marker will appear. So if you want the objective marker to appear closer to the ground, then you need it to be close to the ground, the middle of the box. So we're just going to put it just above mech level, just a random guess, and we're going to go into our script from here. One last thing before we move on is to select here, and we can't. This is sometimes what happens with an error for people, is we need to allow generate overlap events. This will be in collision, and generate overlap events, toggle to true. You can always search it in the bar up here as well. Now that we're done that, we can go to our Kel mission script, open that up, and from before we have our mod mission start coming from our cinematic start finish. Before we add anything onto here, we're going to go into our variables, okay, and we're going to label a trigger point here. So let's call it waypoint objective trigger. Now this is a Boolean, so what you need to do is you want to change this to a trigger base. Okay, down here, as you can see, trigger base. Now you want this to be a soft reference. Okay, you're also going to want to make it to expose it, so click that eye. Okay, compile, done, great. Now, next, so we don't get lost, is we're going to go back out and select our mission script in the outliner. What you're going to go down is in the default, you're going to now see our new variable. Okay, you want to select that, and our only trigger box is going to appear. Now, if you want to rename our trigger box to something like waypoint 1, that will help you later on if you have multiple of these. So let's save. Great. And we're going to go back into here. So now that we have connected these through them, selecting them by exposing the variable, we can now add our first objective. So you're going to pull off of that and type add objective. Great. Now, we have a couple things here that we can go over. First is the objective type. We have primary, secondary, optional, unlisted, status, and additional mission parameters. Primary will appear in the left-hand corner of the game, listed as primary, and generally we will use it as the big main mission point and go to objectives. Secondary and optional are very similar and can be used in very similar opportunities, like kill extra enemies, to go find some extra stuff, to destroy extra things. Lots of options that you can do for yourself there. And unlisted can be actually a great way to track certain things without the player knowing. It can also be used so that you only need one go-to objective, but you have lots of triggers going through that. I can show that later on in a more advanced scripting video, but for now we're just going to leave this as primary. Now let's move on to progress style. We have a couple options. We have progress counter, percentage, tally, and capture. Progress counter is simply kill 5 enemies and it'll count up. Percentage would be, for example, a base trying to be destroyed, how much of that is destroyed. A tally will be very similar to progress counter, and capture is for a capture objective, which we will go over later. But right now we're going to leave progress style as none. And here is the display text that will be shown on screen. So we're just going to simply type move to waypoint. Very simple. And lastly, we have the marker class. We have a long list of different markers here that can be used in a variety of different situations. The most common one, and the one you see in our games for lots of things, is primary objective marker. That'll be the one you're using a lot of the time. What I recommend doing after this is clicking on the objective here and promote this to a variable, because you want to save them to be used later, and it's just a good habit to get into. So we're just going to call this waypoint 1 objective. We're going to go waypoint objective 1 actually. Great. So we're going to save that. Oh, bit of a typo. There we go. So now that we have that set up, you're going to see it appear in the level. But before we go back and play, we need to track what is entering it, because right now it's just nothing's going to happen. It's just going to appear, and regardless if we go in the box, it'll still stay there. So what we're going to do is we are going to grab our trigger base, okay, and then we're just going to type track volume entered by unit. Okay, this is what you're going to be using for a lot of things. Mostly it's all going to be involved with the triggers, whether we're going to a move to point or whether we are going to spawn AI based off of a trigger. So let's check that there and plug in the trigger that we had connected before into here. Now, as you can see, objective tracking, if you pull off here, it will not connect to objective tracking. What you need to do is come up and hit split struct pin. Okay, now you have two options. You can simply grab your waypoint objectives and plug that in, and that'll work. You can also pull off from your set here and plug that in as well. It's totally up to you on how you like to set up your scripts. Now, with that, we are ready to go. So let's go play and test this level. As you can see now, we have a objective marker. Now, what is sometimes useful for when you're testing is you can press the home button and you will appear a bunch of different options like kill all enemies, infinite ammo, insta-kill, god mode. You can see all the mechs on that have spawned just in case to debug. There's a lot of options here you can play with. But for now, as you can see, we're about to enter the trigger. Oh, and look, we have completed the mission and the primary objective has disappeared. So now our script is working. Okay, now that we are done with the waypoint objective, we're going to do a destroy objective. For that, we need to drag in an asset that we can destroy. So if you go back up to the top and go into the content folder, what you're going to want to type in, we're going to use as the first example, is going to be a satellite dish, but it's called UTL _ industrial. If you start typing it, you're going to see it right in the middle here. UTL industrial military satellite dish. I'm going to drag that in. And you can see that it has appeared. Now, what we're going to do is very similar that we did before with creating a variable to track it. So let's go do that. So I do recommend by the end of your levels, there will be many variables. What I recommend doing is having these organized. So how you can organize these is by purpose often. So these are going to be waypoint based. So for now, let's go into the categories to the right side and just do waypoints, waypoint objectives. You can do waypoints, and that'll be in there. Now, because it's an objective, I tend to keep objectives in their own part. So objectives, and there you go. Now you can have differing objectives as well. We can rename this to be waypoint objectives, destroy objectives, etc. But for now, we're going to keep it simple and we can rename it as we go. We are going to name this destroy objective actor. Now we need to change this just to a simple actor, and we're going to do it with a soft object reference. Now what you need to do is we have to track this destruction somehow. We've created components that you could add on to our script here that allows you to track these things. If you're not familiar with components, I can do another video, but all you need to do is go up and add new component. So you'll see a long list of stuff here. It's very long, as you can see. So don't scroll down. Simply type in destroy, and you're going to see destroy objectives tracker. Okay. You just need one of these in the level. You don't need multiple if you're doing multiple destroy objectives. Okay. So from there, what we're wanting to do is drag that in. Okay. Now we have to drag that in. We are going to add another objective. So add destroy objective. Great. So here is our new objective we're creating. I won't really go over much as it's very similar to the other one. Still the text is there, primary counter style, but now we can do progress counter if we want. So let's add that there. Widget is very similar, but we're going to want to use a different one, not primary. You can use primary, but let's try a different one. So let's do attack building marker, okay? Just to showcase different. Now, one of the important things here is that you can see this is in an array, and it's a hard reference array. So we could, if we wanted, make this into a hard reference array, and we could add multiple of them. I won't go into why exactly. Sometimes it can cause issues with loading. But for now, we're just going to follow the documentation, so there's not too much discrepancy between the two. So this is one way. We can go over another way later on, but we're going to grab our new destroy objective actor. Okay, we're going to resolve this soft reference, so to make it a hard reference pretty much. And because this needs to be an array, we do need to do make an array node. Okay, this is one of the ways you could do this. Again, we can go over some different methods. Next, I want you to again promote this variable to destroy objective. Okay, so we've set it and saved the destroy objective, but this is not going to run. The reason is we haven't started it for some way. Often with our scripting in our levels, we use a lot of events to keep code clean and to have simple logic. So we want to start this destroy objective after we have gone through a trigger. We do this all the time in levels. And so for here, we want to create a custom objective. So we're going to do add custom event, sorry. And from that, we are going to do destroy objective event. Okay, and plug that in. But we need to call this now that it is an event. So we're going to call it when our volume has entered from our track volume node. So let's call it destroy objective event. Great. So this is now going to call this. So let's go do one last thing, and I'm sure you guys were already ahead of me, but we need to select our Cal mission script, and we need to select our new destroy actor. Okay, done. So now that you've seen the destroy actor has, looks like this can happen sometimes. You need to be careful with selecting. So as you can see, the mass cloud generator is in front of it. It can cause some issues. So if you want sometimes to get around that, if you're not doing the drop down, you can just type in the name here. Now there will be an error if I shoot and destroy this satellite dish before the objective starts. So that is a warning. We can fix that later, but right now you do not want to shoot this. Oh, and look, so here we go. We didn't add any text, which we can go back, but as you can see, the progress counter is working, and this is the attack building marker. So let's destroy it. Done. Building destroyed. And that is our first destroy objective. Great. And we're going to move on to another objective. Okay, one last thing is we did not add the text. So let's go back in and just say destroy satellite dish. And that will now appear. Now that we've set up our destroy objective, we need to set up a destroy units objective, like an enemy mech. But again, we don't have anything happening after our destroy objective. So we are going to again create a new event, but this time it'll be a little different. We are going to create another onFinished event. So how this works is, again, grab the destroy objectives tracker, okay? And you want to bind event to objectives destroyed. Okay, that plugged in, you're going to do what you did at the very start of the game, or our script, and create event again. from here, we're going to create a matching event, and we're going to say destroy objective finished. And now we can start some more logic. For this logic, we are going to spawn some AI, track them, and destroy them, but we're not going to go into any AI-based logic here. We're just going to get them spawned, and then we will do a separate video for the AI. So first things first is, let's just add a simple objective. Okay, we are going to set this to progress encounter, and we're going to say destroy enemy units. And we're going to do primary attack objective marker. Okay, so we have that. Now again, let's promote this variable to destroy units objective. And compile. Now what we do need here is we are going to spawn some enemies. So let's set that up right now. What we need is an array of enemies that we can select. So we're going to create another variable here. You can call it what you want. Right now, we're going to call it destroy units objective units. Now, I do recommend when you're doing this in the game that you call it wave A, wave A2, wave A3, then wave B, B1, and make it sequential. Right now we're just getting this in, so we'll have that there, and you want to change this. We're going to create an array of unit spawners. So you want to type unit spawner, okay? And you're going to go down and create a soft object reference. Expose that, and then you're going to want to make this an array. So you right click and you'll see the grid pop up. So now it is an array, and we're going to drag that in, get, and I already have it placed here, but I'll delete it for now. What we want to do is type spawn units. As you can see here in the notes, it's a array of kel unit spawner. So we're going to grab this and plug that in. Now let's do it the different way than we did it previously. We're going to split struct pin, and we're just going to plug that in there. So now you can see we've used both methods on how to make the objective complete. So we have these units here, but we now need to spawn some enemy units. So we're going to make this sort of sequential and just have it behind the destroy. So let's add our first enemy. Let's just get a simple mech here in. What you can go do, if in case you don't have any in mind, is if you go down and scroll into mechs, you can see there is a variety of ones for you to choose from. So let's just choose a simple assassin. Okay, so you're going to see it pop up in the middle of your screen. It does need to be in place because this is where they'll spawn. And the X is where they'll be facing. Okay, so it is important to know that because you'll have to face them in the right direction. So we're going to have them spawn right here. We're not going to go over much of the AI stuff, but a quick overview here is here's the card. You can change this to any of the other options that we previously showed. Then we have auto spawn. We're going to leave that unticked. Paint theme, that's if you're going to have like Karita or clans or something of the sort. Team, hostile, and now we can go over this a bit later, but we're going to set it to aggressive. This means it'll try to attack right away. Combat tactic is another thing. These are some presets of how they're going to behave. Behavior conflict is pretty much the difficulty of the enemy. So let's just go with a regular, okay? And then we're not going to worry too much after that. But we do have to go to our mission script. Now, once it gets busy, I do recommend the fastest way often is just to type script up here and then go from there. If you're going to, you've closed your editor down for some reason and you don't have mission script anymore. But also when you need to come in here and do it, just type in script and select it through there. So now we have our destroy units objective and there's an array. So let's add one. And you can see as you drop that down, you will see the assassin 21. Okay. So let's save. And now the reason why it did not finish is we have a different way, and this is a perfect way to showcase another way to resolve a objective separately from some of these nodes that do it automatically. So we're going to get our destroy units objective. Sorry, we're going to get our destroy objective. Okay, and every objective you can go off of it and type resolve, and this will manually resolve it. So that will now complete, and it will go into our new objective. We'll save it, and then we will have them spawn our new units. So we're going to destroy satellite dish. As you can see, it's now popped up. One more for me. And we've killed it. So now that we have that done, we can move on to our next objective. But I do want to cover one more thing, is that as you can see, we have all units spawned and all units dead off of spawn units. You can do a lot of different logic coming off of these executables, but there is a different way to track the unit's death for a little more nuance. What you need to do is you're going to go up to components and you're going to type track, and you're going to see unit death tracker component at the bottom here. Okay, if you add that, you will now be able to track them a different way. So you're going to right click and type track unit death. So this will take the same aspect of here, and we can get the destroy units objective as well. Okay, split struct bin, so let's set that up. Okay, now as you can see, an executable will happen after every unit in this array is dead, when all the units are dead, which is the same one up here. But you can also check which one's dead. Maybe you have a special unit in there that you want checked. You can have total dead, so you can have logic happen after a certain amount of dead. So let's say there's 4 enemies in here, and we're not going to set this up now in game, but we can do it so that we can do an equal sign. Okay, and so let's say we want 2 out of 4 dead, so you're going to check 2 total dead. Okay, you're going to set a branch up, and what you're going to do is you're going to connect this to unit dead. What's going to happen is every time a unit dies, it's going to increment this integer here. And once it reaches 2, this will now be true, and it will fire off. That's one way. You can also do percentage. So there's a few different methods here that you can use. For right now, we're going to keep the normal spawn units because that's all we really need. But I'll delete this for now, and when we set up AI further, we can use track unit death. Our next objective is going to be a scan objective. First, let's say we've killed all the enemies and we want to create our next logic based off of our enemies all dying. So let's create a custom event again, and we're going to say all units dead as an example. So now we're going to pull off of all units dead and type all units dead, and we will have that called. From here, we're going to do a simple scan objective. So we're going to do another add objective. Okay. Now we can do a progress counter on here, but for this one, we'll just leave it. And we're going to type in scan gate terminal. Gives a little bit away what we're going to do, but we will do a active comms marker. Let's do the blue. You can also do primary. And then let's, of course, promote this to Vario. And we're going to call this scan objective. Great. From here, we need a scannable object. But the way we're going to do this is very similar to the destroy objective actor. So we're just going to be scan objective actor. Okay, we're going to go back and change it to a simple actor, and we're going to do a soft reference and change that back to just a individual one. If you are doing multiple, feel free to do an array as well, and of course expose it. So we can set this up before we go in. So we will get our scan objective here as well and get that ready. So what we're going to type in here is start tracking interaction tasks. Okay, this is what we want to have set up for when we're doing a scannable objective, which of course you've seen in the game quite a bit. We're going to pull off here and make an array, as we need an array for this. Okay, and it needs to be a soft reference, as you can see here. This is not a hard referenced array. And then we're going to split struct pin and put that there as well. So now we have an interaction objective set up. But of course, we do need to go in and of course add one and connect it to our script. So let's go do that. So we're going to put it right behind our guy here, and we're going to go back to our content browser and choose a BP gate terminal. So once you type BP_gate, you'll see this BP_gate terminal pop up. It's one of the objects that is scannable, and we can set it up from there. So of course, go up to your script now and select your BP gate terminal from the list. And now you've connected everything. Make sure you save. And we are going to play the level again and see what happens. Okay, so now you see the active comms marker pop up. And you can see that there is upload code scan 4 to 4. So let's start scanning. I want to give you some options for how to change the scan interaction tasks. Now it'll be on the object that you've brought in. So let's find in our outliner here our gate. Okay, we're going to select this. Now this is an instance, right? So we can select the parts of this and it won't, for example, change anything in the parent class. So we're going to go to kel scannable component here within the gate terminal. This will allow you to change the things you saw happen. We can toggle on off, is it interactable? We can do a basic charge, waveform match, code match, circles match. So there's lots of things to play around with in here. The object name, you can call it just a terminal instead of gate terminal. There's lots of options, and these will be on any object that has a cal scannable component. You can also create your own by just simply adding a cal scannable component to a blueprint actor class that you want, and do it yourself. Terminal activated. Now here's segments. For example, instead of having 4, which took us a while, we can just do 2, and now that'll be simpler, and it won't take as long. There is a lot of different options here that you can go around and test out with. We won't go over everything, but for example, this radial duration, if we don't want it too long, of how long bar takes to fill and scan, we can change it to 2.75, and that'll drastically reduce the time. So I just wanted to show you that in case you wanted to change those things. And so we're going to save that and move on to a new objective. Now that we have shown you how to edit the scan interactions, we are going to take you through one of the last objective setups. There's 2. We're going to take you through the timer objective, which is quite simple. There is a destructible zone setup where you can destroy entire cities or defend that city or tower from destruction, but it can be more complex, and I'm going to include that in another video. So for now, let's just set up a simple timer objective, but again, we need to create a new event. So let's say custom event again, and we are going to do interaction objective finished. Okay, and of course I like to go off of all interaction tasks complete. You could technically, if you had just one interaction task, go off here, but it's just safer bet to go from all interaction tasks complete. Of course, you can also go from segments complete if you want something to happen when it's halfway through the segments. That works as well if you want some cooler things to happen. So let's go interaction objective finished. Great. So that's going to call here and start our next logic. This one's quite simple. Just add timer objective right here. So very simple. Do you want a countdown? Yes. How many times in seconds? Let's say 60 seconds. And then this is again the display text. So wait for reinforcements. Talk about AI, how to move them, command them, their details in the detail panel, and the different ways to spawn them as well. First, let's go to our mech that we spawn in our mission script from the previous objectives video. And I'll go over again the D in the details panel just in case you missed that or just need a refresher. Here is auto spawn. We tend to leave that off unless you're hoping for them to already be spawned, and maybe even, like, for example, doing a guard path. But generally we leave that off and spawn through the mission script as it's just more consistent. Of course, here's the unit card, and for example, if we wanted to change it, we could go to like an atlas. There we go. So it's changed, and that works the same. Here is a paint theme, and you can go through and and choose advantage, but we can, change that to Davian. Next would be team. So we have hostile, which of course is going to be an enemy, and allied, neutral, and no team. If you want an ally, which can be a great help in certain hard circumstances, you can get reinforcements, and you can command them just the same as enemy mechs. All you need to do is change this initial attitude, but we're going to keep this to hostile. Now, combat tactic. Each mech will be best at a different one of these. For example, you might want a hit and run tactic for a light mech to a medium mech. Like even an assassin is good at hit and run. Mobile is again a faster, but it also likes to stay close and brawl a bit with a little more melee hits. Tank is really just approaches the player character and aggressively gets in their face, shoots, melees. It's a great one for example, even an Atlas would be great for here because it can tank through a lot of hits and make the player anxious. And ranged, for example, is great for more of a sniper or a missile boat type of mech. One I often use is a catapult with a bunch of LRMs for this ranged. But for this one, let's go with a tank. Here is the behavior asset. There is everything from green, regular, veteran, elite, and boss. There's some custom boss behaviors, but don't worry necessarily about those. We are just going to leave it on regular like we did before. Leader is an interesting option. If you have a full lance of enemy mechs and you want them to follow a, let's say, commander, maybe it's a veteran or an elite or even a boss, then you would want to select, so let's say there's 4, and you would want to select 3 of the mechs. 3 of the mechs and select a leader. Now those 3 mechs will now follow that, let's say, boss level mech into battle and will follow it when they're moving. Don't worry about the perception advanced config asset there. Now, if you go into advanced, this is a very important area which we'll be spending in a lot. What this is a sequence list. And we'll get into it, but the sequence list moves through a list of waypoints. Waypoints allow us to guide AI, friendly or enemy like, to certain parts and to do certain actions like attack. As you can see, there's cycle sequence. A great use of this is if you have some mechs doing a guard path, right? Maybe they're just circling a city. You would set up 3-4 different waypoints and you would cycle them, and they would continuously move through those waypoints, creating, let's say, a square around the city. We're not going to do a waypoint just yet. I want to first go over spawning and the multiple ways we spawn. Okay, now we've already spawned this unit from our mission script. Okay, so after the destroy objective, we come in and use spawn units with a reference in an array. Okay, this is one of the most common ways we use it, but of course right now he spawns in plain sight. So often we will hide our mechs off to the side, behind buildings, just out of player view, even out of bounds, which we'll go out of creating bounds later. but let's put him here for now. Okay, so now he is out of sight somewhat, and we'll spawn him there. So that's one way to spawn a enemy. We're going to move on to another type of spawning, and this is one of the most fun ones, is a dropship. Okay, but let's do it in a more interesting way. We are going to go into the mission script, and we now have spawn units. So we're going to now go through it again and do something very similar. But we are going to just go off our destroy objective. We're going to spawn units. Okay. Now, what we want to do again is create a new custom event. We're not going to do, I deleted or moved down some of the previous objectives, and we're just going to focus on enemy AI. Let's create a custom event. So we're going to destroy wave A finished. So we're going to start with naming them in a normal convention. So we're going to go back here, and I would like to rename this wave A. Well, we can go for unit spawners, wave A. Okay. Now we're going to leave that there. And we are going to do we're going to duplicate our wave A. Okay. And let's just do wave A2. Now we again will use spawn units. And now we have spawning. We're going to copy this objective here. And let's just make sure we name it, have the text a bit different. Destroy wave 2. Okay. We're going to again promote this. Now we can try out some different naming conventions. I can show you some that I tend to use, which is OBJ for objective. And we're just going to destroy wave A2. Okay. Please feel free to do your own naming conventions. Each one of us level designers have our own as well. So we're going to spawn here, and we're going to track from there. Now, how do we spawn in a different way? We are going to spawn through what I'm sure you've seen in the game many times, dropships. We have 4 new mechs. Let's get them to be adding into through a dropship. We are now going to open up our content browsers and look for the dropships. So what you want to type is BP underscore spawn. What you're going to see is a bunch of different spawn assets, but the ones we're worried about for this next segment is BP spawn sequence leopard drop and BP spawn sequence broadship drop. Now, if you're unfamiliar, whether it's clans and whether it's inner sphere, if you were going inner sphere mechs, you need to use the BP spawn sequence leopard if you're worried about being lore accurate. And there's a max of 4 in this one. Now, if you do using clan mechs, we're not worrying about being lore accurate. The broad ship here will have 5 slots for me to drop it. But let's use the leopard. So we're going to drag that in. Okay. So as you can see, this is just a asset to show where the placement is. Okay. Both are going to be set up very similar. So let's look over to the right side into the details panel here. We have 4 slots. Okay. We are going to select our mechs that we want to spawn from here. Okay. Now, the spawn area, actually, these guys will not spawn here. They will spawn from inside of the dropship and drop down, meaning that these spots here do not reflect the exact drop point of the mechs. Now, some important aspects. Origin relative means that the origin of this asset, the blue leopard that you're seeing, is where it will eventually arrive at. You can make your own sequence if you so want to, and at that point you can turn off origin relative if it's very specific to that level. So it comes based with a LS spawn sequence leopard drop, which will work for our what we want. So let's go within there and test out what's going to happen. So one last thing we need to do before we test our dropship is we have to go up to the script and we have to add our unit spawners into our array. So just add them like so. And that will now allow us to spawn these guys. How these dropships generally work is when a spawn unit fires and these unit spawners are within these slots, it will cue the sequence to happen and everything else underneath the hood. So let's press play. Goodbye. Oh, and look, there we go. We have a dropship coming down. Ooh. Okay, this is fantastic. As you can see, they're going to drop out. Awesome. Pretty cool cinematic moment and pretty simple. Look at that. I am very good at this game. There is another couple ways to spawn, and we are going to do something called our spawn garage. So open up your content browser again. Okay. And again, do BP_spawn. And you're going to see a spawn sequence ground garage. That is what we want to drag in. Oh. There we go. Great. So these are going to come out from these doors. Generally, you want it to be on a somewhat level area. Now, it's the same situation as these link spawners as before. So let's come in here and we are going to get rid of these spawners from here. What we are going to do now is grab this. Oh boy. There we go. And we are going to select these again. Okay. This is very useful when you're in an inside area or you don't want a dropship to come down like you're in an enemy base. You just want them to pop up like they're coming from a underground base.
That's a reactor breach. It's gonna explode.
Look at that. Oh, and they're already spawning up. So it's one at a time. So we can be a bit of a camper here and ruin their day. At least we'll let them get out. And we're just gonna create a little mass graveyard out front here. Oh, no, wrong way, buddy. Perfect. So everything worked. We've got all four spawning, and as you can see, the spawn garage worked very well there. Next, we're going to move on to tracking and tracking unit death and unit damage. So we just spawned these units, okay, and we're going to come out of the spawn garage just because it's quicker. And from here we want to do some logic based off of let's say 2 of the 4 being dead. Maybe a new reinforcement comes up. So why don't we make the dropship come in after we kill 2 of the spawn garage guys. Okay, so to do that, we are going to want to track unit death. So all we're going to do is copy this over and track unit death. Okay, I showed you this briefly before in another video, but I want to actually use the logic here. Now, I recommend going off of all units spawned, not off of this top. It's just a safer way to do things, but both can work if you go from here as well. So let's do our plan. We want 2 out of 4 dead, then spawn a reinforcement wave. So we're going to type equals here. We're going to have 2 as the integer. We can make this a variable if you want, but it's pretty simple. Get a branch, okay, and you need it to be off of unit dead. Unit dead fires every time a single unit comes from this array. Okay, all units dead is exactly the same as this one. Percentage dead would be very similar to total dead. For example, if I wanted 50%, it would equal 2, right? You can also fire different logic off of this at the same time, and that can be quite useful to start doing other things. So let's duplicate wave A2, and because it's reinforcements, let's call it wave B, okay? So for wave B, we are going to spawn units because it is now true. Here we're going to actually want to just go from this top, and that will work. Instead, it'll bypass that a bit. Work now.
Good work. Reactor is critical.
Grasshopper.
And let's kill that guy. And we still, there we go.
Mech down.
So now you have reinforcements coming in.
Incoming missile.
Reactor breach.
New hostile
Nice shot.
detected.
So we're going to stop there, and we want to go over one more, which is track unit damage. What we're going to move on to is waypoints. Waypoints are how we get our AI to move places. So instead of getting this guy and moving him, let's get him to simply move towards us. So what you need to do, let's get this guy out of our way, is go up into this left corner and type waypoint. Okay, as you can see, there's a few options. There's move to waypoint, attack waypoint, and use smart objective waypoint. Right now, all I want you to grab is the move to waypoint. Okay, this waypoint is how we're going to get the AI to move. Now, in this details panel, we have the radius, which we can edit if we want to be larger. The reason to change the radius is if this mech moves and we say to go to this radius, okay, he has succeeded once he enters this cylinder. So if you want a mech to go to a very specific location, for example, like a sniper point, and you really want them on the edge, then you're going to want to go something quite small, maybe closer to 1,000. Give them a little leeway. But let's go back up to 4, because that is totally fine. Assigned actor, we're not going to worry yet about that. That's more on the smart object. Switch 2, we're also going to... we can go into a little bit later, but the general gist of how it works is you can switch to a different waypoint that's not in the sequence list. This is getting a little advanced in a second, but you can switch to a new one based off some parameters, but you can also do that in the mission script. So we'll go over both methods to create some more complex AI movement. Now, what's great here is start and end attitude. So aggressive attitude, the moment that mech starts and perceives an enemy, it'll just go straight at them, shooting and following their behavior. They won't stick to the waypoint navigation. So often we have them on safe. Safe allows them to shoot and fire back, but they will not be just running around doing whatever they want. They'll still follow your path. Passive, they'll follow the path no matter what, and they won't pay attention to the player. Like, they won't fire back at all. So it's used in certain circumstances, but generally safe is used quite often. And then an end attitude is very often used as aggressive. So once they get to where you want them to be, switch to aggressive. So let's sort of do that right now. And then we'll move on to these two you can ignore for now, and then hold delay. So hold delay is, as the tip here, is how long we want to hold a mech at a waypoint until they move on. So 0 they will stay there forever. This is a cheap and sort of dirty way to do a guard point, but we have a preferred method that we can show you later. So if I set this to 2 seconds, what's going to happen is this mech will hold there for 2 seconds, and if he has another waypoint, then he will go to that waypoint after 2 seconds. But we're going to disable that for now. Hold damage is also very useful. If you want a sniper, for example, or a mech to come up here, surprise the enemy in an ambush, and once the player hits them, maybe once or twice, that they jump down and change tactics. That's something we often did in our game, so that the sniper wouldn't just sit there forever and take damage infinitely. But again, we're going to hold on that. And yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention a value of 0 means it'll forever take as much damage and stay there. Now, what do we do? How do we connect this to the mech? Well, I showed you this previously, and that is in the advanced part of a mech. So I would recommend, other than most use cases, turning off cycle sequence. Most of the time, we're going to just be using a non-cycle sequence. So we are going to go in and create an array, and let's select our first move to waypoint. And as you can see now, you have a clear line to the first waypoint, but we don't want him just to stop there. We want to go attack our players. So we've just duplicated that move to waypoint, and we're going to go and select the new one. Great. Now, as you can see, I duplicated it. So I actually want to change this end attitude to off, because I want it to stay safe until it gets here. So we're going to turn end attitude on in this last one to aggressive. And that'll get that once they're in this one, not in that one, they will turn aggressive. Will we let them survive that long? I don't know. We will see. So let's save that. And now we're just going to test this quickly. Okay, so as you can see,
Missile.
he's firing, but he's following our navigation we've laid out for him, and that's very important to do. You want a specific route that they follow, and they feel like they're doing something strategic. I really recommend using waypoints and safe.
Mech
And
destroyed.
I think he barely made it into his spot, but that's all we really need. We don't need to worry about these guys. Add another waypoint, and this is called an attack waypoint. The attack waypoint pretty much tells the AI within the radius of this attack waypoint, attack an enemy. We use it often to give AI better directions when there is a large combat going on. So, for example, if we have reinforcements coming in and they don't have line of sight on an enemy, most likely, then we'll just tell them to go into the area and go attack the nearest thing. So generally we make these quite large, and you can see them in example levels. Maybe not that large. Let's go 15. Okay, so we're going to put that right around where we will be. We're going to go back to the sequence list, and we're going to go choose our attack waypoint. Okay, you won't see too much of a noticeable difference, but at certain points when you're doing missions, you will notice a difference in how they move and how they behave if you're using these attack waypoints. So generally, we often have attack waypoints over a large area, and our AI will come in from a certain spot, and their last thing in that sequence will be a attack waypoint. So let's play, and again, you're not going to notice too much of a difference. Oh, buddy's trying to get in my way.
Incoming missile.
Disengaging.
Turn on God mode. So we have him following there, and then he's going to
Missile.
get into the attack waypoint.
New hostile detected. Atlas. Target destroyed.
As you can see, there wasn't too much of a difference, but it is very important to use. The next things we are going to go over are smart object waypoints. These smart object waypoints come in a few different ways. First of all, you can go and type in waypoint up top here, okay? And you can see use smart object waypoint, okay? This will allow you to assign an actor, and from here you're going to use different smart actors to change how this smart waypoint works. Okay, we're going to use a simple one that follows along with our documentation called a guard point, but I'll quickly go over the other ones, but won't necessarily show them. But if you do request it, I can do a full video on each one. So what we're going to do is type in guard point or guard. Okay, so as you can see, guard point, what it does will leash a mech to that location in a certain radius while they look around and stand still. It's very useful for sniper points. It's very useful for guarding a location, as the name says. So what you need to do is you need to select your smart object, okay? And then you're going to go down this list here, assigned actor, and choose the guard waypoint. Now, what happens is this smart waypoint will snap to the guard point. Okay, so if you're going to want to move this, is you're going to need to select your guard point, and that will allow you to now move this. So let's do a test here. We're just going to move it up. Here, we're going to not worry about these other waypoints. And we're simply going to select use that. Welcome back, everybody. Now that we have made one of the best levels ever, we need to make it playable in the campaign so you can access it from the main menu. There's going to be a couple steps here. We're going to go into missions. Missions folder, and we're going to just make sure it's organized in here. So the first thing we're going to go do is create a campaign trigger. So the easiest way is to go up to the top to type search and type trigger, and we're going to see campaign trigger asset. Okay, we're just going to call it mod mission trigger. Okay, save that and open it up. Put it up here. This is very simple. All you need to do is, depending on what mission or not DLC or core game you want this to appear, then you're going to want to do core game, Ghost Bear, Instant Action, or Smoke Jaguar. Select core game so that it appears in the core game, and always true, and save that out, and you're good to go with that one. Okay, next we are going to create a locale asset. So what I want you to do is type data, okay, and you're going to see in miscellaneous, go down, and you're going to see a red one with data asset with the pie graph. Okay, that's the one we want. Select that and then type in locale, and that's going to give you a cal locale data asset. We're going to also call this mod mission locale and save that. We can open that up and bring that up here. Display name, we're going to call it mod mission. Display order is fine. Now this is what, when you play the game and you're about to go into a mission, you will see a holo table and you'll see it as a planet. This is what we're setting up. So we can do another tutorial on creating your own unique planet for the holo table, but for right now we're just going to choose the Turtle Bay, and from there you want to go down and choose your mod mission trigger. Okay, and then you're going to want to create a component, and that component needs to be capital P planet, and then your component display name is going to be just what you want it to call. So we're just going to call it mod mission map. Banner image, don't worry about that. Go down to missions, and what we do need is we need a scenario file. So we're going to create that now and then come back here. So let's open that up. Now, before we create a scenario asset, we need to create an area spec. So you can come up here again and type area, and you're going to see under MW5 MISC, which you can go find. So if we don't want to go through here, all you need to go down is we have MW5 MISC, MW5 MEX, MW5 achievements, and Kelpie. So if you go down MW5 by MISCs, you're going to see the scenario file, which we'll create in a minute, and you're also going to see area specification. So let's go there. We're going to go mod mission area spec. Okay. Battle map, we don't need to worry about that. Music asset ID, we don't need to worry about that. the level path is our persistent level. So that's the one we literally created at the very start. So we named ours level underscore mod mission. Okay. At that point, we are pretty much set up to go for the area spec. We do need to select kel mission script parameters. And then when we go into the mission parameters and then go down to mission script, we want to choose, and we can only choose the one we created in our level, the BP kel mission script. For persona ownerized, we don't need to worry about anything. And so we are done here. We've connected them. So save that. And now what we're going to go do is going to go back to MW5 MISC, go down and select scenario. We're going to go mod mission scenario. Save that and open it up. Now you are going to see a big red scary sign. All you need to go do is hit generate. And this will be your unique scenario ID, which is quite important. Make sure to save that right away. Mission name, we're just going to say mod mission. Description, a great, let's do all caps, great level. Completion rewards, abortion, don't worry about that. We can do a separate video on completion rewards and optional completion rewards. And we can do that later on. Allowed tonnage, we would want 500 because that's the most fun. Next launch, additional cycles. As you can see, this gives how much time to prepare for the next mission if you're doing probably multiple of these or you're sticking in between missions. But we can also do this in a different way as well. We can go over this later, but for now we want to just connect these and get these displaying. So what we're going to do is select our area spec, which we made, and then we're going to go down and select our mod mission campaign trigger as well. And that one final thing before we go test if our campaign triggers and holotable work is that we need to go back into our mod mission underscore locale. And I had mentioned previously that we need to create a scenario, and we did, of course. So we need to come back and put that in there, save that, and we will be good to go. If you have restarted or you just create a new level, an empty level, you can just hit play, and this will take you to the base game's starting menu. If you haven't done this yet, it can take a while to load things up. I will skip ahead until it loads, and then I can take you through next steps. I'm all loaded up here. This is what you will be greeted with. First thing is to go into your mods menu. The mod that you just made should be already enabled, but just to check and introduce you to this is where you enable and disable mods. As we've now checked out the mods and enabled them, we want to start a new campaign. Go up. I do recommend, since we started it in the core game, to go to Act 2 Santander Start. Confirm through the normal stuff and hit launch. The first time, this may take you a while to load in. Once you do, you should be greeted with a holotable, and it should be, depending on what holotable prop you chose, your view here. When you go in, you will see that it has your name here, and it has a great level. I named mine mod map, and you can go in and choose to play that level if you so desire.
Going over the process to create new OmniMech variants in Mech 5 clans. In a later video, I will be going over Battlemechs, as the process is slightly different and a little more similar to Mercs, but the OmniMech process is a little new, and that's what this video will be about. So the first thing you want to do is you want to navigate to the folder of the mech variant you want to add. Now, you'll see all these folders here, the mech part config, the omnipods, the loadouts, the unit cards. These do not need to be in these specific folders. We have them formatted like this for organizational purposes. However, it does not need to be in the same directory as the mech itself, and there's no specific directory the game will look for. As long as it exists in the project, it can be used. For example, if you go all the way towards the Trials of War DLC, you can see the Stormcrow hero, the Lacerator, exists here in an entirely different folder, and the game accepts that just fine. So for those who are familiar with the process of how to make a mech in Mercs, one thing you will notice is that there's only one MDA for the Stormcrow. OmniMechs do not need multiple MDAs. You do not have to make specific tags for each variant. They all use the specific Stormcrow MDA, and that's it. You can see it has the can equip omnipods checked here, and that is all you need to do for the MDA. As long as it exists, you are good to go. Now, what you're going to do is go to mech part config, and you're going to make a new folder for the variant you are creating. In this case, we are doing the Stormcrow I. Now, you can create your own mech part files, but I heavily recommend against that, as mech part files are very finicky and very error prone, and there's a lot of detail that goes into them. I can make a separate video for that later, but if you are making a variant for a mech that already exists, it is best to just copy a different variant's mech part config files and just paste it over and tweak it. That way, instead of rebuilding it from the ground up, you have an already working mech part config set that you can just adjust. Now that they're created, I'm going to batch rename them from SCRA to SCRI. And once that's through, we're just going to open each mech part config. You're going to want to open all of them individually, because Unreal Engine thinks that these all can be batch edited if I were to click on them all and edit like this, but you want to edit them all individually instead, as they are not something that can be uniformly changed. So if we start at the CT, you will see the fixed armor, the fixed structure slot, and the gyro and the engine. Now, the Stormcrow has no open center torso slots, so none of these need to be tweaked or changed. If you go down to the engine, you will see the engine is slot locked, the Clan XL330. That is because Clan OmniMechs could not adjust their engine, so there are no changes you need to make here. It's best when you build a mech that you have already built it somewhere. It could be Mech Factory, could be MegaMech, could be MechDB, just somewhere you can have the whole mech on a sheet of paper in front of you. That way you can have everything planned out and know exactly what you're doing. In my case, I have the mech built on MechDB. This is the loadout of the Stormcrow Prime, or not the Stormcrow Prime, the Stormcrow I. And now that this is all built, I know exactly what needs to go in each component. So the mech part files, none of the equipment goes in here. Everything that goes in the mech part file is something that is locked to the mech itself and is not meant to be adjusted by the player. So this clan double heatsink, the LRM ammo, the ER med, none of these items go in the mech part file, but the engine, the gyro, the fixed slots, upper arm, lower arm, and hand actuator, those are all items you set up in the mech part itself. So the head does not need anything changed, so that can be left as is. The left arm needs 2 energy. So what we are going to do is we're going to select all of these, we're going to clear it, and then we're going to select this hardpoint as well and clear it. If you've done hardpoint assignments in Mercs, this is a very similar format. It is holding on to the left arm component designation here, and it will only show items that are, or hardpoints that are listed in the left arm component. So if I go to the Stormcrow model over here, and I open up the Stormcrow hardpoint file, what you will see is if I go to the left arm ballistic, you will see I have enumerated it as left arm here. So it will only show up on the left arm mech part files. The blanks are geometry that's just added that doesn't serve any hardpoint purpose. So for example, the hand left blank will go in the blank hardpoint if the hand left melee will go in the melee hardpoint. Getting the melee hardpoints wrong is the most common cause of mechs breaking, and I will go over that in a few. So first, we know that this variant needs 2 energy hardpoints, each one taking up a single slot. So there are 2 ways to do that. The first is, well, the first step is to put both the energies in. I can just shift collect them both and then assign them into the active weapon hardpoints. Now, there are 2 ways to do it. The first is you see this way the hardpoint is already set up. It's each energy slot has 1 hardpoint assigned. Forearm left EH1, forearm left EH2, but that would only limit you to 2 single slot weapons. If you wanted to put something like, say, a large pulse laser or an ERPPC, that would not fit because that's a single 2-slot gun instead of these 2 1-slot guns. So if you were to, say, make this energy slot 2 slots, and you hit save, it'll automatically update. It'll clear out the slot beneath it because now these 2 slots are intersecting. So if you go to this slot, it is now blocked out because this slot is taking up its space. And now you could equip an ERPPC in there if you wanted to. And then if I go to index slot 3, then I could assign what hardpoint goes in here. For now, I'm just going to wipe all the weapon slots in this arm. And then we can build this weapon from scratch. Or this weapon hardpoint from scratch. The first thing is that you see that it needs an energy weapon. So you go to the first slot and then general equipment slot type, you would put energy slot type. And then you would determine how many slots you want this energy item to take. So if I do 1, 2, 3, come on. Then if I hit save, after you adjust the slot size of something, you always hit save. And that is because this is slot 2 and 3 still exist here, but once I hit save, the mech part will update and slot 2 and 3 are now locked out because this 3-slot item is overriding them. So if you ever change the size of something, you always hit save immediately after before you make any more tweaks to it. In this case, I'm just going to make it 1 slot. I'm going to hit save again. I'm going to have to clear these 2 out. I'm going to add the associated hardpoint ID. And then I'm going to do forearm left EH1. That means that the hardpoint I selected here, forearm left EH1, will then go into this slot. And then what I can do is that because I want to put another energy slot here, I can just copy, paste, and now it's the exact same energy hardpoint, and all I need to do is update it from EH1 to EH2. And now the hardpoints of this component are set. If I want to clear this because this energy slot doesn't need to be here, I just go to the energy slot and type general equipment slot, make sure that there is not any hardpoint IDs in there, and we are good to go. Now, if you wanted to have a locked piece of equipment in here, like let's say you wanted this ER large to be locked, you didn't want the player to be able to remove it, then what you could do is you could put in the default equipment, C ER large. Oh, ER large. There we go. And then it could be slot locked. Now, if it's slot locked, you'll see that there's an lock icon here. This means that the players will not be able to unequip that item. So for now, we're just gonna turn off that slot lock. Immune to damage also means this item cannot be crit out. Disallow empty slot means that the player cannot empty out the weapon in there, they would have to put something else in its place. That function is especially useful for engines, as we do not want players to be able to put no engine in their mech. So disallow empty slot means that the player cannot take out this XL330 engine without putting another engine in its place. So now that this is set, the next thing you want to do is you want to go down the locked slots here. So this is the shoulder actuator. It would be internal equipment slot type, clan equipment shoulder slot locked because it's an internal item and it cannot be removed or changed. And then you have the upper arm actuator, the lower arm actuator, and the hand actuator. Now the hand actuator and the lower arm actuator is where things tend to break. The first is you need to have the clan hardpoint or the clan melee hardpoint. So this is the hand left melee. If you go into the hardpoint setup of the Stormcrow, you go to hand left melee. If you go at the hardpoint values, you can see weapon melee mech punch left medium. Now it has to be mech punch left, not lower arm left. Or was it LAA? Yeah, that's it. Forearm left because it's going in a clan because it's going in a melee slot. And then it also has to be the melee medium slot type, not heavy, not assault, not light, and then the weapon has to be hand medium. If I set this to a light slot type and if I set this to an assault, this mech will then be marked as invalid and you will spend a lot of time trying to figure out what went wrong. So we're going to go back towards melee medium, and that is it for that. And that is the left arm setup. Now in the right arm, I'm going to show you how to do a lower arm actuator as your melee weapon instead of a hand actuator. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clear everything here. We are not putting the melee items in. So that means I need to add a new hardpoint. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this. Lower arm, right melee. All right, so then mech punch right. Oh, that was already in there. My bad. So now we go back to the right arm. First we save this. And then we go back to the right arm, hard points, reload. Lower arm, right melee now exists. So I put that in the weapon hard points. And then the right arm also has 2 energy. So that's going to be EH1, EH2. The hand is not equipped, so the hand blank will not be put in. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to remove this melee hand slot type. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to, come on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do melee lower arm, medium slot type. And then it's going to be the lower arm right melee. And now I have to change it to clan melee lower arm medium. Like I said, the slot type and the equipment have to match. If this is a lower arm slot type, it has to be a lower arm item in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this lower arm actuator here because there's a lower arm equipment item here. So this lower arm actuator is now redundant. So I'm going to copy the upper arm, paste it down below, copy the shoulder, paste it down below, and then I'm going to copy the general, paste it down below. And now this arm is not configured to melee with a hand hardpoint. It is configured to melee with a lower arm. And then we have this missile slot type here. This needs to become an energy hardpoint. And for this one, I'm going to make it 2 slots and I'm going to combine them. That way you can see what the other style of making hardpoints is like. So I'm going to make this energy 2 slots. I'm going to delete its current hardpoint. I'm going to add forearm right EH1, forearm right EH2. So now both of these hard points are both existing in this single slot. Well, 2 slot single hard point. So then the ER large would go here, the ER med would go here, or if you take them out, you could put an ER PPC in there if you want, or a large pulse. That way, bigger weapons can be allowed. We typically reserve single slot hard points like this for something like the Nova, a mech that can boat a lot of guns, just to help restrict it a bit more because it's already such a powerful mech. So if you look at the Nova, it's 6 single energy slots, while if you look at this mech, because it's just 2 hard points, it can equip something bigger, like say an ERPPC or a large pulse. Now, I resized this slot, so I need to hit save immediately. And now there's just residual 3 missile slots here, just from the missile hardpoint that existed here before. I could go in and clear all those one by one, or I can just find a general slot, and I can just copy, and I can paste, 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 and boom, that's done. Now let's go to the right torso and set up the missile hardpoint here. This one's a little easier because the missile hardpoint already exists, and it can be a 5 slot. That way, if you want to upgrade it to the biggest weapon, you can. We don't have to tweak that. And then if we go to the left torso, this already also exists in the way we need. This is another thing about copying mech variants, is that if you see that there's similarities in the mech parts from a variant you already want, then you can just feel free to copy from that specific variant. For example, the Stormcrow Eye has 2 energy in each arm. Another variant that has 2 energy in each arm is the Stormcrow Prime. So we could have just copied that. I wanted to walk you guys through how to create the variants, but if there's something similar that already exists on the same mech, don't be afraid to copy it. So these are all the mech parts done. We don't have to adjust the CT, don't have to adjust the head, don't have to adjust the legs because those are just both locked items. And now we are on to the Omnipods. So there's 2 parts of the Omnipod file. There's the Omnipod assets themselves, and then there's the Omnipod bundle. The Omnipod bundle contains all the Omnipods. It also says how much XP it costs to unlock said Omnipod. So what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the Stormcrow A again. And we are going to rename it to the Stormcrow I Omnipod bundle. Now, there are already 5 Omnipods in here. So typically, you would do the display order to be number 6. That way it's at the bottom. But there's also the Stormcrow Hero, and that's number 6. So this is going to be number 7. We're just going to set its XP unlock to 1. It costs 1 XP. Always unlocked means that it's like the Prime, where once you unlock it, once you unlock the mech, the Omnipod is there. And then disable means that we don't want this Omnipod to appear to players, but we want it to be available in the game. An example of where we would use something like disable is if there's a boss mech and we want them to have a special loadout that we don't want the players to have. We would create the Omnipod and then we would disable it. So we're going to rename this from SCRA to SCRI. We're going to do bundle short name to I, because that is the single variant abbreviation. And now we will update all of these in a moment once the files exist. So what we're going to do is make a new folder, SCRI. Once again, copying the Stormcrow A. Once again, this error is because there are now duplicate files with the same name. We will batch rename from SCRA to SCRI. And now what we are going to do is we are going to start assigning the mech parts that we just created. So go back to the mech part config, Stormcrow I CT, Stormcrow, you need to be expanded. Stormcrow I head, Stormcrow I left arm, left leg, LT, right arm, right leg, right torso. And then we will set the Omnipod bundle momentarily. Now we have to rename. I'm just going to copy paste that. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, now these Omnipods exist. We will set the Omnipod bundle in just a moment. And then one thing you will notice here is there's aggregate stats fragment and other fragments. Now the aggregate stats are where you add quirks. So like, let's say you wanted to have extra ammo, or if you wanted to have extra, heat sinks, or if you wanted to have other quirks, or you wanted it to have extra armor. We try not to use quirks. We try to balance mechs in other ways, but the quirks exist if you do want to add them. We're going to go back here. And now we're going to select them all, bulk edit, and we are going to set them to the Stormcrow Eye Omnipod bundle. And now the Omnipod and the Omnipod bundle is created. And now what we are going to set and create is the loadout. There we go. Stormcrow Eye loadout. This is where we set the default skin of the mech. We can do any skin we want. I'm just going to choose Ghost Bear Delta because that's one of my favorites. Then we can set the colors, the default colors if we want. If we don't set them, then it'll just be the skin default. This is where we set the health. We're just going to gloss over all that. A lot of that's pretty self-explanatory. And then these are where the weapon hardpoints these are where the weapon hardpoints have their weapon groups set. The first thing you do is you set the Omnipods. So SCRI. Now, sometimes the Omnipods will not show up on here if they are new. That is because Unreal Engine has not indexed them yet. If you go to make a loadout and the new Omnipods do not show up, all you simply need to do is save everything and then restart your Unreal Engine. I am lucky. These are showing up. I don't have to index them. I would say the rate of me having to restart Unreal before doing this step is probably somewhere around 70% of the time. So it's pretty common. SCRI. You need to make sure the Omnipods match here. You need to make sure that the left torso Omnipod item goes in the left torso. Need to make sure the left arm goes in left arm, so on and so forth. And once all the Omnipods are in, you're going to save this. And now we can start installing equipment. So I know the head has a clan active probe, which very frustratingly is called clan beagle active probe. Don't think about it too much. I know the center torso is empty, so I'm just going to collapse these two. I know the left torso has, if I recheck, each torso has an LRM 15 and a LRM ammo and a heatsink. So LRM 15, clan LRM 15. The clan LRM 15 I know takes two slots. Therefore, I need to leave one slot here empty. If you are ever unsure, you can always find the equipment item in here and you can see how many slots it takes. You will cause MechLab errors if items overlap slot-wise. Another thing I forgot to go over is the index here. You can see where the hard point is located. So you can see that, there's the missile hard point here, and it's 5 slots, which means I can put the one LRM 15 anywhere in here that I want. If I put another LRM in here, it's 2 weapons, and I only have a single hard point, and that will also cause a MechLab error. So now I do LRM ammo, clan LRM ammo. Then the heatsink can be moved up one, double heatsink, and that is the left torso. Now onto the left arm. We can just clear all of you. ER large laser in this hard point, ER medium laser in this hard point, and then a double heatsink. And that's all that goes in the left arm. Left leg doesn't have anything. Oh, one thing I forgot to go over. The melee weapon, because we put that default item in the mech part config, it does not need to go in here. Right torso has a LRM 15, then LRM ammo. Gonna copy you, paste you here, delete you. That's all set. Right arm. Now this one looks a little different because I did a single 2-slot energy chunk instead of 2 single slot ones. So it says energy general slot, 2 slots, 2 hard points. So these 2 slots, it can hold 2 hard points, which means putting an ER large here and an ER med here is valid, even though there's no hard point here. Then the right leg is empty. Additional engine heat sinks. This is a battle mech item only. It's how many heat sinks you put inside the engine. In the case of battle mechs, you would put 0 through 6. In the case of omnimechs, it's always 0. If you do want to tweak the amount of engine heat sinks an omnimech has, you go to the mech part config, you go to the center torso, and then you go down to the engine, slot size, and then the engine slot size is set there, and then provides fixed engine heat sinks is up here. If I was to check that, I would do the number of heat sinks that are in there. But the Stormcrow, despite having a 330 engine, does not have any fixed heat sinks inside the engine, so we are just going to uncheck that. And then, if you go back to the loadout, Stormcrow I, save it, you can see the mech tonnage up here. So that way you don't have to go into the mech lab to see if your mech is overweight. It's at 55 out of 55. One thing about clans is that it automatically rounds up to the next half ton. So if I put this at 1 armor point over, it is, oh, maybe 2 armor points is the key. Let's just go with that. And then save. 55.25. Even though 5 armor is not a quarter of a ton, it's rounding up to the nearest quarter ton. And that is everything you need to do to make a custom Omnimech variant. The unit card is not like Mercs. The unit card is needed to spawn mechs in a level, to spawn NPC mechs in a level, but because this is a player mech item, we don't need to set the unit card. If you wanted to, you would just duplicate it, and then you would set its loadout, and that's all you need to do. So now we are going to L Mech Lab. My computer will need a moment to load. I have not opened clans in a hot minute. I'm just going to scale down the settings a bit just to help things load a bit quicker. We're going to play the level. It's going to take a while to load. And we are now in. So what we will do is we will scroll down to the Stormcrow. And now we're going to edit loadout. And voila, the Stormcrow 'I' appears. The Did I make I did make a mistake. There's one step I forgot. I forgot to go back to the Omnipod bundle and take the Stormcrow Eye loadout, put that in the Omnipod bundle, and then put the Omnipods in the bundle as well. Now, if I run this back, voila, the Stormcrow Eye exists. And if I do home, add currency, Stormcrow Mech XP, unlock, apply loadout. Now, if I edit the preset, the mech is not invalid, and all the items are in here. You can see there's this item here. This is the arm we made with the 2-block slot, so I can put a PPC in here if I want. And then you will also see that the medium lower arm slot is here, while if we look at the other arm, it is a hand actuator. And if I wanted to put a PPC here, I couldn't, because these are 2 single slot blocks. And that is how you make a new OmniMech variant. Feel free to ping me at Tios on the Mech5 clan server, or ping Buckton or Omid. They will also know if there are any issues or any hiccups along the way. Thank you so much.